The boutique smelled of expensive perfume and polished marble. Crystal lights shimmered above glass displays filled with designer handbags, silk scarves, and jewelry that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I stood near the checkout counter, watching my daughter, Claire, smile as if the afternoon had gone exactly according to plan. "Oops," Claire said lightly, patting the side of her handbag. "I forgot my card again." Beside her stood Margaret, my son-in-law's mother. She adjusted the collar of her cream-colored cashmere coat and released a theatrical sigh. "How embarrassing," Margaret murmured. "I seem to have left my purse in Oliver's car." The sales assistant looked from one woman to the other, then both of them turned toward me. They expected me to pay. For 6 months, Claire had invited me to expensive brunches, private spa appointments, and shopping trips under the warm label of family time. Yet whenever the bill arrived, her wallet mysteriously disappeared. I had covered every expense because I wanted peace. Claire was my only child, and I believed helping her would keep us close. But that afternoon, the register displayed a total of $1,947. 3 handbags rested behind the counter. There were imported perfumes, a leather wallet, and a silk scarf that looked beautiful but cost more than my first car. None of it belonged to me. Claire smiled confidently. I looked at the total. Then I looked at her. "Oh," I said pleasantly. "How strange. I forgot my card, too." Her smile vanished. "What?" she asked. "I don't have it with me." "But Mom, you always carry your card." "Not today." I turned toward Margaret. "Since your purse is in Oliver's car, you can easily get it. I have an appointment soon, so I should leave." Claire stared at me as if I had suddenly begun speaking another language. "You're seriously leaving?" "Yes. Enjoy your shopping." I walked toward the glass doors without waiting for permission. Outside, cool autumn air touched my face. For the first time in years, I felt strangely light. My phone began ringing before I reached my car. Claire called twice, then 3 times. Messages appeared one after another. "Oh, could you leave us there?" Margaret was humiliated. "Call me now." I placed the phone face down and drove home. Later, while preparing tea, I received a call from my son-in-law, Oliver. "Marion," he said wearily, "what happened? I forgot my card." "Claire is furious. They had to leave everything at the counter. Then they didn't buy anything. They're coming over." "I understand." After ending the call, I carried my tea into the living room. Suddenly, I noticed things I had ignored for years. A costly candle Claire had placed on my mantel because my decorations were old-fashioned. A heavy blanket Margaret had left across my chair. In the guest room closet, I found several of Margaret's coats and boxes of Claire's clothing. They had slowly turned my home into their storage space. I went to the garage and brought back 3 large boxes. For the next hour, I packed everything carefully. I folded the coats, placed the clothing inside, and sealed each box with tape. I wasn't angry. I was finally thinking clearly. The following morning, I opened my bank records. What began as a quick review became an uncomfortable discovery. Claire still used an emergency credit card connected to my account. Last month, she had spent hundreds of dollars at an exclusive wine shop. Another charge came from Margaret's private tennis club. I canceled the card. Then I removed Claire and Oliver from my mobile plan. Their phones had accumulated expensive international charges during a holiday with Margaret. Next, I removed Claire's vehicle from my insurance policy. Within 1 hour, I had saved nearly $800 each month. At noon, my front door opened. Claire walked inside using her old key. She stopped when she saw the boxes. "How could you embarrass me?" she demanded. I remained seated. "Claire," I said calmly, "those boxes belong to you and Margaret. Please take them home." She pointed at them in disbelief. "What is wrong with you?" "Nothing. I'm simply finished paying for things that aren't my responsibility." Her face tightened. "My card was declined this morning. I canceled it." "You had enough money to pay for everything yesterday." "That doesn't mean I was obligated to." Claire opened her mouth, but I raised one hand. "You are in my home. You will not shout at me. Take your belongings and go." For several seconds, she waited for me to apologize. I didn't finally. Claire turned away. Oliver silently carried the boxes outside. When the door closed, I looked toward the old lock. Claire still had a key, and I knew exactly what I needed to do next. The morning after Claire and Oliver carried their boxes away, I stood in my hallway staring at the old brass lock. For years, I had considered Claire's key a symbol of trust. She had received it when she left for university, and I had never asked for it back. Now it represented something different, access without permission. I called a security company and requested a same-day appointment. By mid-afternoon, a technician was replacing the locks on both the front door and the entrance from the garage. "I recommend a smart system," he explained. "You can control it through your phone. No ordinary keys are needed." That sounds perfect. Before sunset, sleek digital locks had replaced the old brass handles. I created a private access code and registered my fingerprint. The technician smiled. "Without your phone, code, or fingerprint, nobody gets inside." Exactly. After he left, I sat at my desk and opened my postal account. Claire had always examined the mail on my kitchen counter. Sometimes she claimed she was searching for bills. Other times, she said she was simply curious. That ended too. I rented a private post office box and redirected my bank statements, insurance documents, and other personal mail. Then I sent Claire and Oliver one message. I changed the security system. "If you need to visit, please call first." I placed my phone on silent, poured a glass of wine, and spent the evening enjoying the quiet. 3 days later, the new system proved its value. I was pruning roses in the backyard when my phone vibrated. A notification appeared from the front door camera. I opened the live video. Claire stood on my porch beside Margaret. Margaret carried a large covered dish. While Claire held a bag overflowing with plates and decorations, Claire removed her old silver key. She inserted it into the lock. Nothing happened. She tried again. "There's no keyhole," she muttered. Margaret frowned. "Then enter the code." "I don't know the code." Margaret shifted the heavy dish. "Your cousin's family will arrive soon. Your apartment is too small. We need your mother's patio." I stared at the screen. They had invited guests to my house without asking me. Claire pressed the doorbell repeatedly. I activated the speaker. "Hello, Claire." "Hello, Margaret." Both women looked toward the camera. "Mom," Claire said sharply, "open the door. We brought food. I'm busy in the backyard. We need the patio." "Today doesn't work for me." Claire's expression hardened. "Everyone is already coming. Then you should have arranged a location before inviting them. Stop being difficult." "I'm not being difficult. I'm declining." Margaret stepped closer to the camera. "Marion, family should help family." "I agree," I replied. "That is why I'm sure you'll help Claire find another place." I ended the conversation and returned to my roses. The following Saturday, I visited a farmer's market in a nearby town. I bought fresh bread, vegetables, and a jar of local honey. While paying for tomatoes, I felt someone tap my shoulder. Margaret stood behind me. 2 elegantly dressed women waited beside her. "Marion," Margaret announced loudly, "we need to discuss what you've done. Claire is devastated. How could you lock your own daughter out?" Her friends watched me with disapproving expressions. Margaret wanted an audience. I placed my groceries inside my bag and faced her. "I didn't lock Claire out," I said. "I stopped allowing her to use my house as a free venue for your family events." Margaret's smile weakened. "She is your daughter." "Yes, and I supported her financially for years." Her friends became more attentive. "I paid for Claire's phone, insurance, and emergency credit card," I continued. "That card also covered expensive outings involving you." Margaret's face turned red. "That is not what happened." "There's no misunderstanding. I'm no longer financing anyone's lifestyle." One of her friends glanced toward Margaret. I adjusted my bag. "If you believe family should pay for family, perhaps you can offer Claire your credit card during her next luxury shopping trip." Then I walked away. For almost a week, nobody contacted me. I enjoyed the silence, but on a rainy Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. The camera showed Claire and Oliver. They looked tired. No Margaret, no food, no guests. I unlocked the door remotely. They entered quietly and sat on the sofa. Claire placed a large leather folder on the coffee table. "Mom," she began softly, "we've been thinking about your future." I looked at the folder. "With this big house, living alone may not be safe." Oliver nodded. "We want to help you." Claire pushed the folder toward me. "We think we should move in." I opened it. Inside was a detailed floor plan. The master bedroom had been labeled. Slayer and Oliver, my name, appeared beside the tiny office near the laundry room. I turned the page. My pension would pay for utilities, groceries, and property taxes. Their income would pay their debts. Claire smiled. It's a perfect arrangement. I closed the folder. For the first time, I understood exactly why they had come. They weren't offering care. They were planning to take over my home. I kept the leather folder closed on my lap while Claire watched me expectantly. Rain tapped against the windows, filling the silence that had settled across the living room. "You've put a lot of effort into this," I said. Claire smiled with relief. "We knew you would understand." I opened the folder again and studied the floor plan. The master bedroom, where my late husband and I had spent 30 years, was assigned to Claire and Oliver. My name had been placed over a narrow room beside the laundry area. It was barely large enough for a bed and a small desk. "Why would I move downstairs?" I asked. Claire's smile faded slightly. "The master room is larger. We'll need space if we're going to manage the house." "Manage it?" "Yes, you're 65, Mom. This property requires a lot of work." "I maintain it perfectly well." Oliver leaned forward. "We're only trying to make things easier." I turned another page. The proposal explained that my pension would continue paying the mortgage-free home's taxes, utilities, maintenance, groceries, and insurance. Claire and Oliver would contribute very little because they planned to use their apartment's rental income to eliminate their personal debts. "So," I said slowly, "I would pay for the entire household while you live here without rent." "That isn't fair," Claire replied. "We would be caring for you, and Margaret would stay in the guest room every weekend." Claire looked away. "She could help." "With what?" "With keeping you company." I closed the folder. "Claire, I'm healthy. I drive, garden, cook, manage my finances, and maintain this house. I don't need supervision." "You're being defensive." "No, I'm reading your proposal." Oliver rubbed his hands together. "We're under pressure financially," he admitted. Claire immediately turned toward him. "Oliver." "What?" he asked. "She can see the numbers." I looked at him. "How much debt do you have?" Neither answered. "That much?" Claire crossed her arms. "Everyone has debt." "Not everyone expects their mother to surrender her bedroom and pension to solve it." Her expression hardened. "You're twisting everything." "No, I'm describing it accurately." I placed the folder on the table. "You spent years trying to impress Margaret. You purchased things you couldn't afford. You used my credit card and relied on my insurance. When I stopped paying, you created a plan to move into my home. We were trying to protect you. You were trying to protect your lifestyle." Oliver lowered his eyes. Claire stood. "If you keep pushing us away, you'll end up alone." The words hung in the room. Years earlier, they would have frightened me. Claire knew that. She had used loneliness as a weapon before. Whenever I questioned a bill or refused a request, she reminded me that I might someday need her. But I understood something now. A relationship built on financial obedience was not security. It was dependency. "I may live alone," I said, "but I'm not alone. I have friends, neighbors, hobbies, and a life." Claire's face tightened. "You'll regret this, perhaps, but I won't regret protecting my home." She grabbed the folder. "Don't expect us to bring future grandchildren here if you treat us like strangers. That decision would be yours," I answered. "But children should never be used as bargaining tools." Oliver stood. "Claire, we should leave." She remained still for several seconds. She stared at me, waiting for me to soften. I didn't finally. She turned toward the door. Oliver paused beside my chair. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I nodded. The smart lock clicked after they left. The house became quiet again. That night, I made tea and sat beside the fireplace. Yet beneath my relief, I felt concern. Claire had lost access to my money. She had lost access to my house. Now she knew I would not surrender either. People who depend on control rarely accept boundaries peacefully. The next morning, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. "You are destroying your daughter's marriage." A second message arrived. A good mother would help. Then another. "Margaret says everyone knows what you're doing." I deleted them. But by afternoon, a neighbor called. "Marion," she said carefully, "I saw something online. Claire posted about being abandoned by family." I opened the social media page. Claire had written, Some parents care more about money than their own children, dozens of people had commented. Many praised her courage. Some criticized the selfish mother without knowing anything about me. I stared at the screen, then I closed it. I would not fight a public battle through vague messages. Instead, I called my bank. I asked the representative to review every account connected to my name. Then I contacted my attorney. It was time to make sure my boundaries were protected legally. Not only emotionally, because Claire believed the house was her future, and I had finally decided it was mine. The next morning, I met with my attorney, Daniel Mercer, in his quiet office near the courthouse. He had handled my late husband's estate years earlier and understood how carefully we had planned for the future. After listening to everything, Daniel folded his hands. "Your daughter has no ownership rights to the house," he said. "The property is entirely yours. However, I recommend reviewing your estate documents and financial protections. That's why I'm here." For nearly 2 hours, we examined my will, savings accounts, insurance policies, and emergency contacts. I removed Claire from several financial authorizations and appointed Daniel's firm to manage certain legal matters if I ever became unable to do so. "You're not disinheriting her," Daniel observed. "No, I'm protecting myself while I'm alive." He nodded. That distinction matters. Before leaving, I asked him to prepare a written notice confirming that Claire and Oliver had no permission to enter my home without approval. I hoped I would never need it, but I wanted clarity. 2 days later, Claire called. "Mom, we need to talk. We already talked." "No, you accused us of using you. You presented a plan that moved me into a laundry room office. That room could be renovated. For me, for everyone." I almost laughed. "Claire, what do you want?" She hesitated. "Oliver's landlord is raising the rent." "I'm sorry to hear that. We may have to move." "I hope you find something affordable." Silence. "Is that all you're going to say?" "Yes. You have 4 bedrooms, and I live in my home. We're family. Family does not mean unlimited access." Her voice became cold. "Margaret was right about you. I'm sure she has many opinions. You've become selfish." "No. I stopped being financially available on demand." Claire ended the call. That afternoon, my neighbor Helen brought me homemade soup. She had known my husband and me for more than 20 years. "I heard Claire has been saying things," Helen said. "She's upset. She told people you threw her out." "I never did." Helen studied my face. "Are you going to defend yourself?" "Only when necessary." A week passed, then Oliver arrived alone. He stood outside the gate holding a small paper bag. "I brought coffee," he said. I opened the door. We sat at the kitchen table. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, Oliver sighed. "Claire is overwhelmed. So am I." "I know." He placed the coffee beans on the table. "We owe more than I admitted." "How much?" "Almost $40,000. I remained quiet. "Most of it came from credit cards," he continued. "Restaurants, trips, clothes, gifts." Claire wanted Margaret to think we were successful, and Margaret encouraged it. Sometimes. "Did you tell Claire I should pay it?" Oliver shook his head. "No, but I didn't stop her. That honesty mattered." "What happens now?" I asked. "We're meeting a financial counselor." "That's a responsible decision." He looked toward the living room. "Claire thinks you don't love her anymore." "My boundaries are not proof that I stopped loving her." I tried telling her that, then keep telling her. Oliver stood. Before leaving, he said, "I'm sorry for the proposal." "Thank you." After he left, I walked through the house. For years, I had believed peace meant giving people whatever they wanted. I paid bills, stored their belongings, hosted events, and accepted disrespect because I feared conflict. But peace purchased through surrender was never peace. It was exhaustion. The following weekend, I invited Helen and several friends for lunch. We ate on the patio Claire had tried to reserve without asking. We laughed beneath the autumn trees. Nobody expected me to pay their debts. Nobody demanded my bedroom. Nobody treated kindness like a contract. Later, I checked my phone. Claire had sent one message, "I hope you're happy." I considered answering. Then I wrote, "I'm learning to be. I hope you do too." She did not reply. Months passed. Claire and Oliver moved into a smaller apartment. Their expensive habits changed because they had no choice. Margaret stopped requesting luxury outings, and her complaints slowly disappeared. Then, one winter morning, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Claire. She wrote that she was angry when I stopped paying because she believed my support would last forever. She admitted she had confused generosity with obligation. At the bottom, she asked if we could meet. I read the letter twice. Then I placed it beside my tea. Forgiveness was possible, but access would have to be earned, because my home was never a prize, it was my life. And this time I would decide who entered it. 3 weeks after Claire's letter arrived, I called her. She answered on the first ring. "Mom, would you like to meet for coffee?" For several seconds, she said nothing. "Yes," she whispered, "I would." We met at a small cafe near the public library. It was quiet, warm, and ordinary. I chose the place because it belonged to neither of us. There would be no memories attached to the walls and no arguments over who controlled the space. Claire arrived early. She looked different. Her designer handbag was gone. She wore a simple gray coat and carried a small notebook. When she sat across from me, she kept both hands around her coffee cup. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You asked to meet. I didn't know if you would agree." "I needed time," she nodded. "I understand." For several minutes we spoke about ordinary things. The weather, Oliver's new job, their smaller apartment. Then Claire opened her notebook. "I wrote down what I need to say," she explained. "You don't have to read it." "I do." She took a breath. "I was angry because I believed you owed me support. I thought your money was part of my future. I listened. When you stopped paying, I felt abandoned. But I wasn't abandoned. I was being asked to become responsible." Her eyes filled with tears. "I used guilt because I knew you were afraid of losing me." "That hurt," I said. "I know." She wiped her face. "I'm sorry for trying to take your bedroom. I'm sorry for using future grandchildren against you. And I'm sorry for letting Margaret treat you like a bank." I remained quiet. Claire looked down. "Margaret is angry with us now. Why?" "Because we stopped paying for her expensive outings." I nodded. "So she is learning about boundaries too." Claire gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "Oliver and I are working with a financial counselor. We sold some things and closed several credit accounts. That's good. We still have a long way to go. Responsibility usually takes time." She looked at me carefully. "Do you forgive me?" "I forgive you for being my daughter and making mistakes. But trust will take longer." "I understand. And the house is not a part of our agreement. It never should have been." That answer mattered more than any apology. We finished our coffee. Before leaving, Claire asked, "Can I visit sometime?" "Yes. Do I need to call first?" "Yes," she smiled. "Fair enough." Over the next several months, our relationship changed slowly. Claire visited after asking. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes we gardened together. She no longer arrived with shopping bags or unpaid bills. Oliver came occasionally too. He brought my favorite coffee beans and talked about their financial progress. He never asked for money. I never offered. One afternoon, Claire helped me repaint the guest room. As we worked, she noticed the empty closet. "Margaret's coats are gone." I returned them. She was furious. I survived. Claire laughed. It was the first time we had laughed together in months. By spring, Claire and Oliver had reduced much of their debt. They still lived in the smaller apartment, but they had stopped pretending to be wealthy. Margaret rarely visited them. Without luxury gifts and expensive outings, their relationship had become less convenient. That was not my problem. My home became peaceful again. The heavy blanket disappeared from my chair. The unwanted candle was gone. My rooms reflected my taste instead of someone else's expectations. Each morning, I drank tea beside the window. I tended my roses. I invited friends who respected my time, and every evening I locked my door without fear. 6 months after our cafe meeting, Claire arrived with Oliver. She carried a small envelope. "What is this?" I asked. "A payment," she said. "For what?" "The money we borrowed without asking properly." I opened the envelope. Inside was a modest check. "You don't have to repay everything today," I said. "We know, but we want to start." I looked at Claire. For the first time in years, she was not asking me to rescue her. She was showing me that she could stand on her own. I accepted the check. Then I made tea for all 3 of us. As we sat together, I realized that boundaries had not destroyed my family. They had revealed what needed to change. I could not force Claire to become responsible. I could not control Margaret, and I could not buy love by paying every bill. But I could protect my home. I could control my finances. I could decide what behavior I accepted. People who benefited from my silence had called me selfish when I finally said no. But saying no had given me something money never could. Freedom. My front door remained locked. Not because I feared my family, because I finally understood that the person holding the keys should also control the boundaries. And in my own home, that person was me.